to the channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Eamon. This is my BMW 435, and in today's video, I want to answer one of the most common questions that I get, whether it's on Instagram, in person, on YouTube, and that is, why did I buy this 2015 BMW 435 and I didn't buy an M4? Especially considering how much I've modded this 435, how much money I've put into it at this point, how much different it looks, and how much more aggressive I tried to make it look. Why did I not just go ahead and buy an M4 right off the bat? Obviously, an M4 is way faster, a lot more aggressive looking, and I wouldn't have had to put nearly as many mods into it to make it look like this. So this video isn't meant to say that the BMW 435 is a better car, because straight up, guys, the M4 is the better car. I mean, obviously, it's more expensive, it's faster, it's the M version of this car. So I'm not debating that. What I want to talk about is why I personally chose to buy a 435 over an M4. Because again, I've modded this car heavily. I've started the YouTube channel with it. So it probably would have made more sense for me just to get an M4, but I obviously didn't. So to really answer that question and to explain it to you guys properly, we have to go back a few years to when I first bought this car. So if you guys are watching this channel, or if you've been watching it since I've made the channel, which I did about like a year and a half ago, you'll know that I started modding the car back then, which was like 2021. I want to say like January, February of 2021. However, I've actually owned this car much longer than that. So I'm gonna hide inside the car for a little bit under these dark window tints. But yeah, to explain this, guys, so when I bought this car, I bought it in 2018. I want to say in August or September. So I've actually owned this car for a very long time, way before I actually started my YouTube channel. I pretty much kept the car stock up until the point where I started the channel and I started modding it. And I was totally happy with the car, how it was stock. Like, to me, it was an amazing car. Again, I was coming out of a base model Honda Civic LX. So this was a pretty big upgrade. So this 6-cylinder N55 that came to the 435 was like leagues ahead of that 1.8 liter 4-cylinder that came in that Civic. So obviously, in terms of speed, guys, the 435 was plenty fast for me. I didn't feel like I needed an M4. I didn't even feel like I needed to mod the 435. Again, it was plenty fast for me. Obviously, since then, I've pretty much gone stage 2 on this car, and I made it a lot faster. You do get used to power, guys. Unfortunately, it's kind of one of just like the downfalls of modding cars, and you do crave more. But at the time, going from the Civic to the 435, it was plenty enough. I didn't really feel like I needed the power of an M4. Also, I know it's pretty hard to see because the car is pretty modified at this point, but even when the car is stock, guys, like, this car looked so good in my opinion. It's such a long and sleek looking car. Obviously, it being lowered and on these nicer wheels really enhances that and all the other mods, but even when it was stock, it looked so good. The M4 obviously looks more aggressive than the 435, but again, similar to speed, I really didn't feel like I needed an M4. Like, the 435 already felt like it was plenty car for me. Again, guys, do keep in mind this was like in 2018, so things have definitely changed since then. I've owned this car for almost 4 years now, which is pretty crazy to think about, even though I've only been modding it for like a year and a half. So to kind of sum that up, guys, what I'm trying to say is the 435 at that time in 2018, when I was coming out of my Honda Civic LX, a base model Honda Civic, felt like plenty car for me in terms of its looks, in terms of its power, and even in terms of the interior, although the M4 interior is pretty much the same, but you guys know what I mean. So this car felt like a massive upgrade for me. I didn't really feel like I needed an M4, especially considering the price of an M4. So yes, of course, guys, one of the biggest factors as to why I didn't get an M4 and I got a 435 instead was price. Of course, like, an M4 is so much more expensive than 435 is. Even at that point, 2018, this car is a 2015. I got this car for about, like, I want to say like 30K. I think M4s were going for like at least 45 to 50, depending on how clean and the mileage on them. So spending like another 20K on a car was obviously not the goal for me. I would be lying if I said I just couldn't afford it. I'll be honest, guys, I could have, but I didn't want to. I just thought it was irresponsible for me to spend that much money on a car. Even at the time, I thought it was irresponsible for me to spend this much money on even a 435. And M4 just would have been like too much. So if you guys watch the channel, you'll know that I've been very blessed to afford a few more cars after that. So I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I couldn't afford an M4. Obviously, I've progressed in my career. I'm not talking about YouTube. I'm talking about my actual career, the career that pays for these cars. It's been like 4 years since that point. So going back to 2018, I was making decent money, but I didn't want to spend that much money on a car. I just thought it was a little financially irresponsible, if I'm being honest. And I just didn't think it was a wise decision for me to splurge on an M4. I thought a 435 was even still too much for me, but I still justified it. You know, I still love cars. But the point is, I was able to justify getting a 435. I just couldn't justify buying an M4, especially at that point in my life. Now, obviously, things have changed. I am very grateful for the fact that I make more money. I'm able to afford 3 cars now, whereas back then, I was, I could only afford the one, that being the 435. Now, if you guys are following along with the story, I didn't mention what happened with that Civic. So like I was saying, guys, I had that Honda Civic. When I bought this 435, my plan was to get rid of the Honda Civic and keep the 435 and only the 435. I didn't want to have two cars. Even though the Civic was paid off, I didn't want to pay insurance for two cars. I didn't want to store two cars. I didn't want to maintain two cars, especially at that point in my life. Obviously, again, things have changed. I now have three, but at that point in my life, I didn't want to do that. So that basically means whatever car I was going to replace the Civic with, it had to be my only car, my daily driver, the car that I drive literally year round. If you guys don't know, I am located in New York. It does snow and rain here a lot. So that was a big factor. I needed a car that can handle all 4 seasons, that I can drive year round to the gym, to work. Now, obviously, my plan wasn't to take the 435 through like massive snowstorms, but at least if there's like an inch or two on the snow, I didn't want to feel too guilty about driving whatever car I had in that weather. Now, you guys can probably see where this is going, especially if you're familiar with my 435. My 435 is an X-Drive. So at the time, guys, in 2018, the F82 M4s did not come in all-wheel drive. I believe the G82s, now you can get like a competition in X-Drive, so they could be a little more practical, especially here in the Northeast. But at the time, all the M4s, they did not come in X-Drive. This 435 did, and that was a big reason why I got it. And I know some people are gonna be like, well, if you get a rear-wheel drive car and you put snow tires on them, it's probably even better than an all-wheel drive car with like all seasons. And you guys probably aren't wrong, but I was younger then, guys. It was 4 years ago, and you know, I just wasn't as aware about things like that. So now that I know that, that's probably what I'll do with my next car. So now the next and probably the last reason why I chose to get a BMW 435 over an M4 had to do with maintenance. So again, guys, I needed this car to be my only car. At the time, I worked in Connecticut. I lived in New York, so I would drive about like an hour and 15 minutes sometimes each way. So that's over 2 hours total a day. So obviously, guys, whatever car I was driving, I was racking up a lot of miles on. So a whole bunch of miles means a whole bunch of maintenance. Just maintaining an M4 is overall just more expensive than a BMW 435. Not even just maintenance. If anything broke on the M4, it would probably be more expensive. I know that ties in with what I was saying before, like the cost of the car in general, which again is a big factor, but an M4 is just overall more expensive than a 435, and then even just maintaining an M4 and like the insurance and all that type of stuff is also more expensive. So if you guys know me personally, or if you've been watching the channel for a little while now, obviously, guys, I ended up keeping that car years and years after I ended up getting the 435, which was not the original plan. Again, I did not want to have two cars. What actually ended up happening was shortly after I got the 435, I got engaged and I knew I was going to get married soon, and I knew I needed two cars. So I actually ended up keeping the Honda Civic. So again, guys, that wasn't the original plan. If it was from the get-go, maybe I would have gotten something a little more impractical than this 435. Like an M4 would have been more reasonable if that was the case. But a lot of things have changed since then. I started the YouTube channel. I started modding the 435. I decided to get my wife an SUV, hence the X3 M40. I kept going with the YouTube channel. I kept on modifying the 435. It became more and more impractical, and it's a coupe, so it's not the most practical car in terms of starting a family. So what I ended up doing, guys, is swapping out that Honda Civic, which was also a coupe, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, for a 2017 BMW 330. Basically just a normal sedan, which I use as my daily driver now. I just use the 435 to have fun with. So the X3 M40 became my wife's daily driver. The 330 became my daily driver. And the 435 honestly just became like the YouTube car, the weekend car, the car that we just like have fun with, take to car shows, and the car that I don't have to worry about remaining practical. So with that said, guys, although when I first bought the 435, I had to be a little more strategic and practical in my decision, now that I have two reasonable daily drivers, one for me and one for my wife, the next car that I get, I don't really have to worry about it being practical. I'm also in a better place financially, so I can afford an M car and not feel too bad about it. And lastly, I'm just better at working on my own cars at this point, so I feel like I can better maintain an M car rather than taking it to a shop and paying that premium of an M car. You guys know what I mean. Pretty much a lot of things have changed since then. And once I do get rid of this 435, guys, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be replaced with an M car. I don't know what it's going to be exactly yet. If it's going to be a G82, maybe like an F87 M2. Yeah, overall, guys, I don't want to give the impression that I don't like the 435. Absolutely love it. Obviously, I bought it for certain reasons, but I absolutely love this car. It's still plenty fast for me. I think it looks absolutely amazing, especially with the mods that I put on it. But of course, an M car will always be an M car. Who knows, maybe one day soon we'll get to experience that and mod that car. But until then, we're going to keep on modding this 435, the X3, the 330. We're still going to have fun with these cars. So if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that button. Drop this video a like. It'll really help me out. But with that said, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.